Hi, I'm Matt Harlow from DJ Case and Locavore.Guide, and this is our second lesson that's really honed in on marketing, and we're going to talk about the messages themselves and how you can make messages to attract students to your Locavore hunter or angling program. So, as we talked about before, the message is the bait. How does a message work? Just exactly like a fishing lure. That's why this whole idea came around. The first job of a fishing lure and an ad is to attract the attention of your audience. So in the case of a fishing lure, it moves, it makes some rattling noise, it might flash a little, it does something that gets a fish that's over here being a fish to look over there and say, hey, look at that. After it attracts their attention, it says something to them. In the case of a person and an ad, there's a lot of different options. In the case of a fish, there's basically one option. Hey, that looks like food. So it attracts their attention. They look at it. It looks like food. In the case of a fish, again, there's only one thing to do. If something attracts your attention and looks like food, you bite it, right? With your audience, you attract their attention. You tell them something that they find appealing, and then you tell them the call to action, how to move on that new knowledge. So here it is in the real world. You're an outdoorsy person. You're driving down the freeway. You see this billboard. It says, hey, turkey, deer. That attracts my attention. What do they do there? Hunting and fishing and outdoor gear. Ooh, that's cool. What do? I get off on Lombardi Street. So that's how this concept works in the real world. So let's talk about creating a message. So we're just going to walk through these steps. So first, how do you create a message that attracts attention? The number one best way to attract attention is relevant attention. Subaru is a master of relevant attention. Here they show a kayak and a bike and a surfboard on top of a 2021 Crosstrek. If you're a kayaker or a cyclist or a surfer, you instantly see these things and they attract your attention. So you want to show something that a person's going to gain by using your product, or the flip side, something that they'll lose by not using your product. If you don't brush your teeth, your breath will smell funny and you won't get a date. If you can't attract relevant attention, then you use some other element to attract attention. That's called borrowed interest. It could be something cute like these dogs. It could be a controversy that's going on. It could be a celebrity. Celebrities make most of the money they make being in commercials because of the borrowed interest of their celebrity. Or it could be a song. How many times have you paid attention to a commercial because of the music? Here, Subaru abandons their great relevant feature strategy and uses this dog-tested, dog-approved, which they've run with for quite a while, borrowing people's interest in dogs and dogs doing silly things like driving cars, dogs dropping their cat off at the park, things like that, to attract your attention to their message. It does work. It's just relevant attention's better attention if you can get it. But borrowed interest still works. You see people spend millions and millions of dollars doing it every year. The third is just to graphically pop out of the environment that your ad's going to be in. A black and white ad in a color publication or a color ad in a black and white publication. Either one would do the same thing. Silence on TV is the loudest thing you can put on TV because TV is normally so loud. Clean white design, a unique, attractive image like these. So these things pop out just because of the contrast or the cool factor of it. Again, not a bad way to attract attention. People do it all the time. It absolutely works. So here's your first exercise. I'd like you to think about 6 ways that you could attract attention to ads for your program. 2 should be relevant attention, 2 should be borrowed attention, and 2 should be graphic attention. We know that you're not necessarily a marketer. We know that you're not necessarily a designer. This is just helping you through this process. Stop the video, like always. I'll be here when you're done. I told you I'd be here when you got done. So we've attracted their attention. Now let's communicate with them. So again, if you were a fish, communication's easy. It just needs to look like food. So the first thing you need to do is you need to keep things simple. Here's a message about a car. Here's a message about a car. What do you know about that first car? Absolutely nothing. What do you know about the second car? It's fast. Keep your message simple. Tell them as little as you can tell them that will make them want to move forward. So first rule, keep your message simple. Second rule, don't oversell. Sell the next step, not the last step. You never see anybody say, hey, come by the Toyota dealer and we'll sit you down with the contract guy. It's always take a test drive, come see a car, come kick the tires. Sell the next step, not the last step. Features and benefits. And this is an argument that constantly goes on in the marketing world. A feature is something your product has or is. An outcome is the benefit of using the product based on that particular feature or benefit. Sometimes that line's a little blurry, and that's okay. Here's a quick example. Fishing is easy enough that kids can do it. The benefit of that is you can spend some time with your family fishing. And the thing about benefits is they always need to be in your prospect's point of view. And you need to get out of your shoes and be that prospect. And remember those personas. That's what those personas are for. You've got to say, I'm Holly Whole Foods or Health Food. I'm Holly Health Food. And this is, to me, this is what the benefit of that feature is. And you always need to come from that prospect's point of view. So here are some common motivations for hunting and fishing. For hunting, it's fun, it's relaxing, it's a great sport. You're being in the outdoors with nature. You can get food. You get time to be with your family and friends. Fishing side, being in the outdoors and nature, to be with family and friends, to continue a childhood tradition. It's relatively inexpensive. It's a good chance to unplug and be alone. There's the adventure, the excitement. It's fairly easy to access. And there's the food. So these are some common motivations for hunting and fishing. How do you use those to build a message? And the ad industry has what they call a greed message. If you do X, you'll get more of Y. If you go hunting or fishing, you'll get more fun, more recreation, more time with friends and family, etc. So this is how you use a motivation. So then let's talk about the other end of the stick. Here are some common barriers or obstacles to hunting and fishing. You don't have enough time, you're of poor health, you don't have access, the weather stinks, you've lost interest, you're not catching any fish. This is the fishing side, sorry, you're not catching any fish, crowded spots or lack of access, hassle, the cleanliness of the water or the shoreline. Litter on the shoreline irritates me no end. And if I had to fish in a place like that, and that was the only opportunity I had, I would probably not fish. Lack of knowledge, lack of equipment. So, right, these are reasons not to hunt and not to fish, but you can use those too. So how do you use a barrier to attract people? So first, you can correct misconceptions. If people believe things that are wrong, then correct that. You really can't eat the fish from Lake Erie. Public hunting land is within 25 miles of downtown. If you've got a situation where people believe things are wrong, this is a great thing to do. Tell how your program solves the problem. So if your prospects are concerned that they can't afford a firearm to take up hunting, we'll teach you how to shoot and help you find an affordable gun. Address those same barriers in your program and in your ad. Address discomforts with testimonials and case studies and using images of people who look like the people you're speaking to. So if your uh, advertising to women who don't feel that they'll be welcome in the class, show them other women who look like them in the class, maybe saying, I can't believe how nice they were and how welcoming they were. Or you can turn the tables on a bad excuse for not hunting and fishing. When she grows up, you want her to remember that you worked a lot of overtime, but that you took her fishing. If people are making bad lifestyle choices that prevent them from hunting and fishing, you can address those head on. So your feature benefit exercise lists the 5 most important features of your program from the participant's point of view. Everything is always from the participant's point of view. How do the participants benefit from each of these features? I'll be here when you're done. Welcome back. So we've talked about attention. We've talked about communication. Let's talk about that call to action, right? So what are you ultimately trying to motivate your prospects to do? In the case of angler training, that might be to buy a license and go fishing. Is it reasonable to expect your prospect to take that action after only seeing one message? So is it reasonable? I'm sitting on the couch. I've never thought about hunting in my entire life. I am flipping through the state wildlife magazine. You might wonder why I am. If I'm sitting on my couch, I've never thought about hunting in my entire life, but let's say I am. And I see that ad. Is it reasonable that I am going to jump up from the sofa, buy a hunting license, and go hunting if I've never thought about it before from just an ad? Probably not, right? So what's a reasonable next step that prospect might take after seeing your message? So they might go to a website. They might call a number. They might visit a Facebook page. These are reasonable first steps. That's your call to action, is that reasonable first step. How do you use that call to action the most effectively? So now let's just say your call to action is some sort of request for information, right? So you got to have one call to action per message. It might be to make a reservation for the wild game dinner. It might be to get more information. It might be to look at the class schedule. But you don't have on here, make a reservation for the wild game dinner or get your elk license, because then they're not going to know which thing to do, and they're probably not going to do the thing that you need them to do. So one call to action per message, but there can be multiple ways to execute that call to action. You could say, make a reservation for the wild game dinner by calling this phone number, by sending an email to reservations@, or by visiting a website, blah, 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 /reservations. 100% of your message needs to be dedicated to encouraging that call to action. Anything else is distraction. Get them to look by attracting their attention. Once you communicate, everything you communicate needs to be about getting them to take that call to action. You want to funnel them in. So a call to action exercise. I bet you're not surprised about that. What do you ultimately want your prospects to do? Just jot it down. What do you want to do? What do you want them to do as a result of this ad? So what's a reasonable thing as a result of this ad that will move them towards that ultimate goal? List all the ways that they could possibly take that call to action. So again, if it's more information, they might call, they might email, they might visit a website, they might download the app. I don't know. So list the ways that they can get information to take the call to action that you want them to take. Again, I'll be here when you're done. Thanks for doing that. Let's keep going. So because you're selling the next step and not the last step, you'll often find yourself in a situation where there's a series of messages or a message chain. So in the case here, you'd see some original message wherever you saw it. Let's say you saw it on YouTube, right? And the call to actions for that particular message would be call for information, click for information, email for information. Regardless of which you do, you're going to receive that information. And the call to, and so that itself is a message. The call to action in that message is make a reservation. You come to the dinner, you attend the dinner, and you receive more information. And the call to action in that message is sign up for a class. So what you've got is all the messages necessary to walk a prospect from the very first exposure all the way to ultimate sign up. And each step has to have its own call to action, or again, how will they know what to do? So message chain exercise, list the steps from the first message to signing up for your program. What information is needed at each step? So what do they literally need to know from the first exposure ad before they would go for more information? What's the call to action for each of those steps? I'll stop here. You stop the video. I'll see you when you're done. Welcome back. Okay, so the other thing to know is that you're not trying to knock the ball out of the park at your very first at bat, right? This is a process of constant refinement. So you're going to go fishing. You're going to use your messages, right? You're going to get your messages out in the world. And if you aren't getting enough bites, you can change the message or you can change the media, but don't change both at once, or you'll never know which one actually caused the change in success levels. So let's say you're getting 10 inquiries a day and you don't think that's enough. So you change the message and now you get 6 inquiries a day. You might want to change it back. Or you change the message and now you get 15 inquiries a day. Hey, that was a good idea. But if you change them both, you don't know what to do. So change one at a time. Watch and learn, keep what works, refine or eliminate what doesn't work. Your marketing will probably never be perfect, but it will always be improving. So that's it for this lesson. Thanks again for coming. Complete any exercises you haven't completed, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.